I am a true born Belizean.
Tell them that we born there.
Belize my home, my native land.
Tell them that we born there.
I want you people to understand.
Tell them that we born there.
I am proud to be a Belizean.
Welcome again to another episode of Navel String Connections. I'm BILAL Morris, live from my studios here in Los Angeles with my host and co-host, ARIA LIGHTFOOT, live out of Florida. And again, we want to invite Belizeans across the Belizean diaspora in the UK, United States, the Caribbean, Africa, Europe, wherever you are. Those people who have been tuning in, have been listening to the show. We have a set of very loyal listeners and viewers who listen and watch Navel String Connections. We want to invite you and thank you for coming in and watching. We have a very, very interesting, informative, I would say more informative show. We are in the age of Trump and the anti-immigration policies. And we have, the Belizeans are like, what? You know, what do they have for us if we have Belizeans who are deported back? I know Belizeans have been being deported back to Belize on a regular basis for some matter or the next. But this is a sweeping deportation order, executive order signed by the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and it's on the roll. And we have a very interesting and informative show to educate and inform you Belizeans. Very, very informative. Stay with us. And I will go straight to my host, co-host ARIA LIGHTFOOT, to introduce our guest for today. ARIA?
Hi, good night. My name is ARIA. Thank you for joining us on Navel String Connections. We want to thank XTV Creme Radio to host this. And last week we spoke to two U.S. immigration attorneys regarding immigration issues for especially with Belizeans living abroad. As Bilal mentioned, the immigration policies have shifted in the United States. On the media tonight, the foreign minister mentioned that there are currently 96 Belizeans in custody and an estimated 899 that are currently under deportation order. But even so, we have a lot of Belizeans who are getting ready to retire and want to retire and come back home, or students who might have been out here for a while, or you have other people who have been abroad for a significant time. We have the liaison officer, Miss Vivienne. Vivienne, okay. Vivienne Acosta. She is from the Ministry of Tourism and Diaspora Affairs. And one of the things, Belizeans, there is a ministry dedicated to Belizeans who are living abroad. And we thank her very much. She's specifically here to share with us about the DRIP program, which stands for the Diaspora Returnee Incentive Program. And this is Belizeans who have been living abroad for 10 years or more. There is actually a program where the government provides certain tax benefits, incentives to return home. So, Ms. Vivienne, could you please introduce yourself first? And can you just give us like an idea of what this program is?
Hi, good night, everyone. My name is Vivienne Acosta, and I'm the liaison officer here at the Ministry of Tourism and Diaspora Relations. So I'm in charge of the program, the DRIP program, as we call it, which is the Diaspora Returnee Incentive Program. And the Diaspora Returnee Incentive Program has been established to attract Belizeans in the diaspora who are moving back home to Belize. The program was established on May 11 of 2010, and during that time, it was under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And then the Ministry of Tourism and Diaspora Relations took over full responsibility of the program on September 1st of 2021. So who can apply? Any diaspora returnee who is a citizen of Belize and who has resided for at least 10 consecutive years outside the country of Belize. Normally, we would get emails, we would get phone calls from Belizeans that want to return home back to Belize, and we offer them the incentive of the program. The program allows Belizeans returning back home permanently 20,000 USD of their household and personal items, as well as one vehicle per household. They are tax free. The only taxes that they would need to pay is the environmental tax, which is roughly about 3 to 5% of the value of the goods that they're bringing back home with them.
So if they, just to break it down, there's a program in place. When you're returning home, you could ship your household items up to a value of 20,000 US plus a vehicle, right? Is there any limitation on the year of the vehicle? Does it have to be a certain year that they're bringing in the vehicle?
We advise no less than about 5 years.
Okay, so
Yeah.
about 5 years. Basically, you said that you have to be a Belizean citizen, right?
That is correct.
What happens to children of Belizeans who are Belizeans? Because I did get a question from someone whose mother is Belizean. They are trying to locate their family information so that they can get their Belizean paperwork. How does somebody like that, they're Belizean by through their mother, however, locating the paperwork does not automatically make it obvious that they're Belizeans. What are some of the things they can do to benefit from this program if they are interested in moving to Belize?
As I mentioned, they would need to be a Belizean, whether it be Belizean by birth or Belizean by descent. They would need to provide proof that they are Belizean. So that would be their Belize birth certificate, their Belize passport, their nationality paper, along with their Belize passport.
Okay. So that person would have to go through the nationality process, then they could apply for such a program, right?
Yes, they need to provide that nationality certificate. That is proof that they are Belizean.
Okay. So you mentioned that Belizeans are able to take advantage of this program. Since January, because that's when the president took over of the United States, he signed an executive order that basically eliminated some protections for people who are not regularized in the US. Have you guys seen any uptick in interest in returning to Belize since this executive order has been announced?
Yes. Since about last week, we have been getting inquiries asking for the application and what they need to provide, the documents, supporting documents. We welcome back all the Belizeans that wish to return to Belize. And as I mentioned, as long as they have been living abroad for at least 10 consecutive years and they can show proof, they fall under the program.
So what are some of the proof they need? Like, how do I prove I was living here 10 years? And those people who are, what proof do I need to show I'm doing 20,000? Like, how do you evaluate? Do you have like a list of items, an idea how much it costs, so people know what $20,000 look like?
Yes, well, they would need to provide a list of their personal and household items and their values. Of course, they would not list the what it cost at the beginning, as their personal belongings depreciated over the years.
Right.
So they make a list, and the list has to value up to $20,000. If they go over that, then customs would charge them duty on the excess amount, full duty on the excess amount.
Where does somebody access this information? Where do I go to, one, get the application form if I wanted to return home? And also, who do I submit it to? And what is the length of time to get it approved?
So they can actually go on our website, the www.tourism.gov.bz or www.belizediaspora.bz. And on those sites, it has resources and the application where they can obtain it.
Okay, so go ahead. How long does it normally take and where do they submit it?
So they would need to submit the application. They can submit it via email, and the supporting documents, they all need to be in a clear picture view, as we would pass it along to the Ministry of Finance, who does the approval letters. You would need to provide the application. You need to provide proof of nationality, which would be your Belize birth certificate and your Belize passport. Or if you don't have your Belize birth certificate, the nationality paper along with your Belize passport. If they are married, they need to provide a copy of their marriage certificate. They need to provide proof of living abroad. Proof of living abroad can be their tax return forms, their W-2 forms, which would be from 2014 to 2024, because we need to see that they've been living there for 10 years. They can provide their leasing agreement if they've been living at different rented apartments or house. If they bought a house, they need to provide the agreement where they first bought the house and an up-to-date mortgage for this year. They can also provide an employment letter, which would state how long they have been working with their employer, and it has to be at least 10 years. So if they've worked for a company for 5 years, they need to get another letter from the previous employer that they were with. Every document that they provide has to show at least 10 years. They can also provide their Social Security summary report if they have Social Security, which could be found on the ssa.gov website.
I do have a question. A lot of people may not have legal stuff like W-2s and stuff. Is there another way that they could prove that they've been in the US for 10 years? Do you guys accept affidavits or stuff like that?
Yes, we do. And the employment letter would go under that if they don't have the W-2 forms or they don't do Social Security.
Okay.
How do they, to use their consul general offices in their respective cities that they live? Like for me here, Los Angeles, a Belizean is trying to return home. How do they do like a pre-planning of maybe a checklist? Can they use the consul general office in Los Angeles here, for example, or in other words, to prepare them? How does the ministry and the liaison work along with the consul general office in helping facilitate that return back to Belize?
When any of the consulates or the embassies have queries from diaspora that want to return back to Belize, they would email us and they would give us the information of that person who's interested, and we would email them right away. And that's how we get in contact with them and coordinate with them their application. Everything can be done through email. They don't need to send in the physical application and supporting documents. It can be sent on email. Just ensure that the documents and the application are in clear pictures.
How long does it normally take from when they submit everything? Because I know you'll have to go back and forth with documents. But once everything is in, how long does it take for them to get it?
Once we receive the application along with all the supported documents that we request, the process takes 2 weeks. Once the approval letter is ready from the Ministry of Finance, then I would email them or give them a call and tell them that their letter is ready for pickup at the Ministry of Finance in Belmopan. If they are not able to pick it up in person, they can always send someone on their behalf to pick up the approval letter. But once they are clearing their personal and household items and their vehicle, they must present the original. Customs do not accept copies.
Good information.
Yes, the list that they provide, it also goes to the Ministry of Finance and they stamp that list. So we always ask the applicant to make sure that they list everything, because if they don't list something and customs find that it's not on the list, they charge them full duty for it.
I know that for a fact because I returned home to Belize in 1999, lived there for 5 years before I returned back to Los Angeles. And the process was very, very, very fluid at the time. Whichever government, I can't remember, was the Musa administration that was in power. But everything went pretty well in terms of, as you were saying, that all your household items were duty-free. There was no problem with that. There was some kind of charge on the vehicles that we brought in. That is there something that you're saying that those vehicles have to be at least as currently as 5 years old, right? Practically a new vehicle per se, not anything that would probably help pollute Belize, because when you bring a vehicle in there, they take off the smog. They take off we don't have no smog problems in Belize. But the catalytic converter is taken off because Belize don't use that. And I remember taking mine off of my two SUVs. But what I was expecting was that the vehicles were going to be duty-free. What is it that you need to let Belizeans know when it comes to those vehicles? They are not necessarily duty-free. They are not covered as well as their household items. Only the household items are duty-free, but there is some kind of excise duty that is charged on the vehicles, right?
As I mentioned, the environmental tax, they charge you the environmental tax. That's the only tax that the Belizeans would have to pay. Everyone,
And how much percent is that actually? How does that work? How does that break down?
As I mentioned, it's about 3 to 5% of the value of the vehicle. 5% being about 8-cylinder and 3% being about 4-cylinder, if I'm not mistaken. This information can be found on the customs website.
I do have a question. So you have a couple that are Belizeans. Is this extended ×2 or is it individual? How does that work when it's a couple or more than one Belizeans in the same household?
Okay. The application is 1 per household.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'll go a little bit further with that. So if somebody is then separated, it's not considered the same household, or would it be considered, how is that handled, you know?
If
I
there's
figure that might get a little bit antsy versus single people. And it's just a feedback I would want the ministry to think about, that this single person is actually getting the same type of benefit as a couple, and a couple might have acquired more things together. So you're telling us that it's per household, single or married. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's very good information that people should know. What are some of the challenges that for example, what are some of the common challenges you see Belizeans face when they're applying, that you have to go back and forth with them on certain issues? What are the most common ones that you see?
Providing their proof that they've been living abroad for 10 years or more.
Okay. Okay. And I guess people push back because it's Social Security and some of it is private. They think, you know. Okay.
No fabricating paperwork, right? It has to be. Is there any kind of streamlining of the process to make sure that these documents are authentic, that the ministry goes through?
Once we receive the documents, we ask them that all the supporting documents that we request must be notarized.
Okay.
And they're moving in also. One of the things is that a lot of Belizeans want to bring in certain amount of cash in terms of returning, rather than saying transferring that money through a bank in Belize itself, right? How much are they allowed at that time to bring in that they give them? Is there an incentive in terms of like the duty free on the household items, the vehicle, but also in bringing in cash in terms of bringing that into the country to help facilitate their the process of returning home?
But cash isn't duty, cash would be declared, right? You don't pay duty on cash.
Yes, cash will be
But there is
declared.
a limit though, right?
Yes, it is 10,000.
10,000, just like the airport.
Well,
Yes.
it's not limited to 10, it's just you have to declare it once you're at 10. So you could legitimately bring in 10, 20, 30, as long as you could prove that you legitimately have that money and you get it from a legitimate source.
And if the Belizean is, good point there, if the Belizean is wiring their money through a Belizean bank, are they allowed more than 10,000?
They would be allowed more than 10,000, but it depends on the approval of central bank and the bank.
Yeah, because it's a declaration. I mean, you could wire $1 million as long as you could prove that you legitimately have $1 million. That's,
Yes.
you know.
Money laundering and all of that is
Yes.
in
Yes.
yes.
Okay, I know we talked a little bit about this offline. Right now, according to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, there are 90 something Belizeans that are currently in facing deportation, and another 899 that are on deport removal order, meaning that there's been issued, but they don't necessarily have them in custody. Are those Belizeans, if they, because a lot of times when they're picked up, they do not have the opportunity to go pack up their homes, send down their vehicles, but they might have a family member that is able to do that. Can those Belizeans who face deportation still go to the ministry and ask for that incentive to bring their household items from the US?
Yes, they're allowed to do so. Once they return back to Belize, they have at least a year to bring back home their personal and household and their vehicle.
So the letter is good for 1 year. It's a 1 year time period.
No, if they haven't applied yet.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh.
But the letter, the approval letter, is valid for 6 months. So
Okay.
once they receive the letter, they have 6 months to bring in their household and personal items and their vehicle.
I
But
want to go back to the
sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead,
Customs allows only one custom entry. They don't allow multiple entries.
Okay. Okay. And this letter is a one-time thing. There's one incentive in your lifetime to take advantage of something like this, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But I mean, Aria is saying it's a one-time lifetime. But for example, like me, I went home, lived there for a couple of years, returned. If I want to go back again with that,
You've been cancelled
I
out,
would still
Bilal.
enjoy those benefits or what?
No,
Sadly, no, because you had already returned home under the
There's nothing on
program.
file on me in terms of that. I went so many
you're
years
never
ago.
serious about return home, Bilal.
I'm retiring now. The next time I'm going to go home to Belize, I'm going to go to my retirement. So Vivienne, you're going to have to accommodate me, man. But the question that I wanted to go back to is these children born of Belizean parents, that is actually Belizean constitutionally. Now, I remember processing my children and getting their Belizean citizenship after we had come back from Belize. I went to the Consul General office here in Los Angeles, and it was easy. They did it very easily. Now, a family is moving back home and they're taking their American-born Belizean children home with them, right?
Yes.
I had done in 1999. Can they process the citizenship so that those children can get that benefit that you spoke about earlier with ARIA? How would that process be facilitated, or it won't be able? The Consul General offices, with the assistance of the Ministry of Tourism and Diaspora Relations, would they be able to have those children processed at the Consul General office before they come into Belize so that they can enjoy that benefit of that citizenship?
The immigration, they request that first time applicants, they need to be at immigration in person.
In Belize itself, yeah.
Yes.
Well, they did process it at the diaspora event. Remember, they did.
Right, right.
But immigration.
But I would think that they would give their Consul General office this power to do this in those respective cities and countries where the Belizean diaspora resides. Wouldn't you think that that would help also?
But that's not her. I don't think that's her
But
forte.
that's immigration, right? That's immigration. But I would think that the Ministry of Tourism and Diaspora Relations would maybe make some kind of incentive through the Ministry of Immigration that, hey, let's give this incentive that they can process it at their Consul General office. As a matter of fact, why do we have Consul General offices?
Yeah.
That is a good recommendation, as some people would not be able to travel and then travel back and then travel back again. So that would be a good recommendation for first-time applicants if they could apply directly with.
And I think the ministries, they continue coming to the diaspora. I really think it's urgent in this era now, where people can access paperwork, because those IDs are extremely important to a lot of people, and it's definitely something that they should think about. Is there any partnerships that you guys are working with? And the reason I ask this, because I feel like it would potentially become a more demanding thing. Because while 900 or 899 people are on removal order already, there still might be thousands that are in the pipeline that are simply just not at the removal order as yet. Are there any partnerships, like, the U.S. Embassy have people that they work with that help people access paperwork? We could say the embassies and consulates, but there are some cities that don't have embassies or consulate that might have a Belizean, that require Belizean help. So where can they go? For example, elderly people that might not be as familiar with the internet or email, or somebody who just needs somebody to help hold. Some people need hand holding to fill out paperwork. Is there any people that you're working with that are partners that could help facilitate this?
At the current moment, we're just working along with the consulates and embassies. We haven't met with anyone that would be able to assist in that particular way. There are some law firms that assist the people that the diaspora that want to return. And they take care of all the documents and they liaise with us on completing the application for the applicant.
These are U.S. law firms, or Belizean American?
It's Belizean.
Oh, Belize, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So is there a possibility then, and I know at least it could be a recommendation for you, is it possible that you guys can now start working with people here to see if they can help facilitate some of the processes so that they can be helped? I've been getting a few queries from people asking about this now, because it is now something that is now at the forefront. I know some people, it's not that they're in deportation order, they just don't want to deal with being here during all the chaos, and they might just want to be home for, and take advantage of that. So, I just think it's a recommendation that to prepare that if it gets, we have 4 years, and it might become more than 899 after 4 years.
Yes.
Could you tell us any stories? Like, do you know any of Belizeans who have successfully used this program and moved back home? Like, on average, what would you say is the average amount of people per year that know and utilize this program?
Since we have taken over the program in 2021, we have had a significant amount of applicants. I would say roughly today about close to 200 to 300. And some of the applications were pretty straightforward and there wasn't any complications. Others, I had to work back and forth with them until they could have completed their documents that we requested. But
Okay. So on
They
average,
have,
sorry, go ahead, Bilal.
they have, I remember various Belizean governments over the years have had real estate living homes where these Belizeans who are returning home, they were able to buy, planning for their retirement. I remember a friend of mine, he had bought, through the, I think it was the Esquivel administration, had bought one in Belmopan. He still have that house. Also, there was projects like the Belizean American housing projects at Tropical Park, where I live. And I was able to access through the very incentives that is offered to Belizeans coming home. The government of the day actually allotted areas where it was strictly for Belizean Americans. And that area now is so beautifully developed. From when I went there, I was like one of the first. Is there any program? I mean, here you have someone want to return home and they have everything that they need, maybe their retirement, but they don't have a home. They would like to access some kind of piece of real estate. ARIA, this is where you come in and
Plug
you
myself
have a lot of
into
real
this.
estate on the block.
I'm gonna plug myself into
I want
this.
to ask the ministry because I know that previous governments have had that incentive. Like again, the Tropical Park Belizean American housing project. Is there anything in your government that in that way for that kind of incentive?
I feel like I could talk for her on this because she's not real estate. The government of
Yeah.
Belize, the government.
Is there anything though?
There is, if the government of Belize, if you buy a lot for a certain amount of money that's under a certain value, you actually don't pay GST on it. Additionally, there are some developers in Belize. I work with a couple, plugging myself in, that have very affordable lots. A lot of Belizean Americans are taking advantage of it. I've spoken to 3 builders. One of them, a Mennonite guy, he builds an entire house, thousand square foot house, 3 2-bedroom. You could get that for 100,000 US, which is very good for a house if you are coming in for the retirement amount.
Is there housing projects? I really think that like the Tropical Park housing project that I got into, and the
I
Belmopan
think the
one,
government right now
there should be, instead of just buying these single properties and that they should have been continue to make designated housing projects for Belizean Americans returning.
So I think that Belizean Americans have the ability to access homes. It's not like when you return, there's a lot more builders that are doing it for Belizean Americans. The Mennonites have jumped in and they've made it extremely affordable. And we're talking about nice houses. We're not talking about plywood or anything like that. I think right now the government of Belize is prioritizing Belizeans at home, and I don't see anything wrong with that, because the Belizean Americans do have some more resources on average to take advantage where they don't have to burden the government to go build them homes. I mean, there's several developers now that are literally building in Belize, and they're building from condos, single family homes. There's all these different things happening in Belize that Belizean Americans can take advantage of. And so if you want to move home, you're getting an incentive, 20,000 in household goods, and you're also getting a vehicle, which is the normal tax on that vehicle is 25%. So when you're talking about the tax goes from 25 to 5, that's a major, that to me, that's major. Because if you take that tax that you're saving, that 20% tax that you're saving, you have enough money to buy a lot and you have enough money to start building.
Well,
I
I
know
think
me checking Miss Acosta, but I know she's diaspora affairs and she's not talking about real, but she can tell us whether or not
yeah,
there's
but it's
any.
an attractive program because I remember the tropical park program attracted a lot of billions. Okay, it was leased land and they just built on it, and now you should see how flourishing that community is. They all come from New York, Chicago, LA, and I was one of the first to build there. I think that there has to be some kind of attractive incentive beside just being duty free and household items, bringing in your vehicle. Belizeans, you saw the diaspora summit already, you saw how much people want land and piece of lot. I mean, to pay for a piece of property in Boom right now, thousands of dollars. I already keep saying it. Property they get expensive in Belize. You better buy something. But I think government should have, especially the Ministry of Diaspora, in tourism and diaspora, they should have an incentive like the previous governments have done to attract Belizeans because most of all, people want to go home, but they don't got a way to live.
But Bilal,
You
you
know?
can't tell me Belizeans can't find $500 down payment and 150 US a month for BAM lot, half acre lot. That's what's going on in Belize right now. It's
I
crazy
mean,
that people can't take advantage of that.
that whole, I remember seeing since Karen Sandiford showing me that whole entire Belizean American tropical. Lots. I mean, okay? This land was given as an incentive and cut up in and given this. I mean, that is attractive rather than this single thing. I gotta come up with thousands. I don't see that as too attractive, really, for a lot of people.
Bilal,
Just
me
because
personally,
someone who have been there and have done it.
me
And just
personally
looking at
not
it
believe
now.
in a give away land for free. I
I
feel
know
like
that,
when
but
you give away
there's a lot
anything
of
free, people don't value it. I feel like when people have to pay, even if they have to pay $500, I feel like you get the value because you put something towards it. We no walk go back to free. We not even walk encourage our culture free. But that's me personally. I feel like most Belizeans abroad can find 500 US dollars. That's my opinion.
and I
Could be
also too,
wrong.
Aria, what I had like with it too, and Vivienne, I mean, we're not taking you into that here, but it's a good point of discussion in that also like DFC made concessionary loans at low interest rates for those Belizean Americans to build those houses. I was one of them, okay? Right? Rather than borrow money for Uncle Sam here, the government is giving you and attracting you. And I hear a similar program like this is in Ghana for diaspora.
But
Not
by the
just the
way,
Ghanaians,
AFC does have
right?
such a
The
program.
banks and mainly, but at the same time, the government made that as an incentive to the Ministry of Finance that Belizeans could also access low interest loans to build their homes if they're going to come home. I don't see that kind of attraction
But
and
it does
incentive.
exist, Bilal. DFC has it, and some of the banks are now lending at 6% or less. And so it's there. I just think that what's happening is that people aren't aware that these programs exist. And maybe one of the things that the ministry can do is partner with DFC and the banks so that they can give their flyers as a package to Belizeans who are returning home so that they're aware that these types of loans exist. But it does exist, by the way. A lot of the interest in real estate is growing so much in Belize. That's why I try to tell people to take advantage of it while it's still affordable. But the interest is growing that even the banks are now are starting to look at possibilities to give these types of incentives. Hopefully this year they're going to join us at the Diaspora Summit so that we can have those discussions and make people be aware that these different services are. We're sorry, Ms. Acosta, we just, they kind of talked to you. And basically, you never really answer the question, but I'll leave you to
So
answer the
maybe I had
question.
to learn something right away could carry back to her
I
liaison.
am. I am.
Right there. This is all about what problem solving and and it all
Yeah, because
attacking, right?
yes, because at the current moment we don't have any program as such to incentive to include to bring back home the Belizeans when it comes to land and housing. There are privated gated communities that offer housing programs. Take, for example, the Whitfield Courts residential community that is located on the Northern Highway. They have houses that they bill for Belizeans, or if you wish to get a piece of land on that side, you can do so with them, and it's like their own little gated community. But I believe that it would be a good idea for us, with the Ministry of Tourism, to see how we can give incentive to the diaspora as well when it comes to coming back home.
Absolutely.
And I'll plug in that there's a guy, Jillet, in Boom he builds the house, he sells you the lots also. You have Sabre Realty, they're going to start building homes. And that's what I'm saying. There's all these different incentives that are now, because she said since 2001, 200 people have taken advantage of this program.
2021.
Since 2021. So that's 4 years, right? 3 years because we're just in 2025. Think about 97 people now being returned home. They might get slammed in 1 year that they have been 3 years' time. They might get that same number in 1 year. And I think that's some of the things that you might have to anticipate, that you might kind of get slammed in the next year or two, depending on how these immigration programs go. I personally think it's hype. Me personally think it is. It's just a show for the first time, but at the end of the day, America needs immigrants, whether or not they want to admit it to their populace or not. So I think after 2 years or so, it's going to cool a little bit as we heading to a second election. But what are some of the lessons, like what are some of the advice you would tell Belizeans, that because you've worked with at least 200 of them, what are some of the advice you would tell Belizeans who are returning home, who have not been home for ages? They're used to a certain thing in the US, or Canada or wherever. I know they're returning home. So what would you tell them based on your own experience with them?
I would tell them that Belize is always ready to welcome them back home. We may have changes that occurred over the years, but there's nothing quite like home at the end of the day. We are here, the ministry is here, ready to assist them in whatever they need, regardless if it's the Diaspora Returnee Incentive Program, if they need help in anything else, such as immigration, where they need to go. We assist them in any inquiries that they may have. So we're here for them overall.
I remember when the first female mayor of Belize City, Zenaida Moya, came to Los Angeles, and one of the things that she made as a ask for in terms of sister city relations with the mayor of the city, Antonio Villagrosa, is that the help for deportees, because she says that she would come by her office and these young men would be just there waiting for jobs, they are coming into the country. And on the point that ARIA is making in terms of these, we have to be prepared in Belize for this deportation of Belizeans. There are already some that is rounded up. But Zenaida Moya had made it clear to the mayor of Los Angeles that it's a serious problem. It's not only that they bring with them some of the criminal activities that we see in Belize, but that they don't have jobs, and that she had to try, as the mayor of the city, had to try to find work for some of these deportees, which was deported based on different reasons, right? What is it that the Ministry of Tourism and Diaspora Relations, having to be prepared, and you coming forward as the liaison officer, what is it that has been prepared as an incentive for these deportees in a case of employment? Because we know that it will be, we had the problem already. It's not like this problem is new, that the deportees that are coming in from the Trump administration, we have had deportees from many other American administrations. And we have known that the problem has always been when these people come there, when these deportees come there, is jobs, no work. What is it that, I know you can't speak for government, but what is it that the Ministry of Tourism and Diaspora is doing in terms of preparing for this?
That's a tough question, Bilal. I feel like I have to rescue off and this question.
But jump in, man.
That's a very tough
Jump
question.
in, we had discussion, you know, we don't have to put Vivienne, put the sister on, we are discussing these things. And like
But I'm
you
saying about,
Vivienne will take back a lot of these ideas. This is what we are here for.
I
And
agree. I agree. I
it's
think
your point, Claria. You know, it's a very, it's a, because they made it clear to, and Sylvia Golosa says, well, I will send you gang intervention specialists to help you.
well, I think
with
that's
that problem.
important for the grab partnerships. You're right with
Yeah.
the, if they could find resources on how do you re-enter people into the environment. And to me, those would be people who came unwillingly
Yeah.
versus people who are looking to come willingly. I think in this spell, you'll meet a lot of Belizeans who are not criminals, but they're going to be deportees because it's a wide sweeping immigration policy. So I don't think they're, I mean, literally, this is what Trump secretary said. She said, when asked, I thought you were only going to focus on criminals. And her response was, anyone who lives illegally in the US is a criminal. And that's to me an indication that they're not targeting people who commit crimes. Anybody who is living illegally in the US is potentially.
A crime.
And one of the things he's trying to do also, which according to the immigration attorney last week, he's trying to fast pace deportation where people don't sit in front of a judge. However, America still is a country of the rule of law, and some of his policies, the courts have already, some of his executive orders, the courts have already suspended pending review whether or not it's even constitutional. But he did say if you lived in the US for 2 years or more, they cannot just remove you. However, if you're in the US for less than 2 years, you can be just removed without going through the entire process. And I think it's important that people are aware of some of these things and they shouldn't be afraid to ask questions. And I want to reiterate, Catholic Ministries is one of the ministries that help immigrants a lot with these types of issues. And people, if they want their privacy, I know Belizeans, we're always secretive with each other because we worry about what people think about us. But right now, that is time for asking a lot of questions. Find out, the ministry does have a lot of information on their website. And I find the ministry to be very responsive to people. I will say that. So if it's something that you're worried about or concerned about, you should start planning. You should, even if you don't take advantage of it, you should start planning, getting your paperwork in order so that if that ever happens, finding out what it takes, who the contacts are, so that if it does happen, have a plan. You know, if you're going to wait and see, because a lot of people are very invested in the US. You don't need to be legal to own a house in America. You don't need to be legal to even have a business in America. And so there's a lot of people who are very vested, and it's difficult for them to just say, I'm going to pack up and leave, but it might still not be their choice. Somebody might still show up, you know.
And I would add too that the Belize City Council have an excellent diaspora program for business, where all of these abandoned lots. I have worked along with the mayor, Bernard Wagner, in terms of these abandoned lots where Belizeans who are returning home, who wants to invest, because sometimes we come and we want one job. No, create your own job, right? Business, we welcome, they say in Belize, right, Vivienne, we would welcome business people, entrepreneurs. And City Council have an excellent program for that, where these abandoned lots that are there, the council gives it to the business person, The person builds their their business on it and employ two Belizeans from the city. Excellent, excellent program, and it's a program that is under the Hubert Pipersburg Diaspora Help Desk. These are some of the things that he was doing, and I love that too because it's best we have to tell a lot of our people who will be unfortunately find themselves back to Belize in this administration that if you have a skill, rather than going into Belize and looking for a job, and if you can't find one, create a problem, build your own job, become an entrepreneur, and the government of Belize have incentives for that. Is that right, Vivienne? We'd say through the diaspora for businesses and so on for those people who are entrepreneurs, even
Yes,
for
we
the returnees,
encourage
right?
we
Right?
encourage entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship, yeah,
And we don't discriminate. We train and prepare our people for the most professional tourism experience.
absolutely.
That's awesome. Because I think that Belizeans, that's a area there's a high need, right? I think the minister had said at one of the events that they don't even have enough beds for the demand that's coming. The amount of people who want to visit Belize, the demand is high for hotels and places for people to stay.
But ARIA and Vivienne, I remember when we took the Moya, they released the mayor to City Hall, and Tuna Villagrosa, the mayor, tell her, we would like to hold the California Democratic Convention in Belize. Then I said, we don't have enough hotels. You imagine that, that's called political tourism, bringing in the California Democratic Convention in your country. This is one of the things that he's giving back, sister city relations, right? And it's
Can't
we
even
don't
do
have,
that.
and I know if do we have now, Vivian, is the Ministry of Tourism, do we have enough to facilitate sports tourism, political tourism, to house a convention like that? Do we?
We have small places that does that, but to host something big, we haven't had that
Yes.
as
So we
yet.
still have not grown from that. That was 2007 when the mayor built sister relations with LA, Los Angeles City Hall. But I believe that I heard one person said, I think I had asked Aria, who we had on the show from tourism, that she said that we could maybe spread it out throughout the whole country, San Pedro, all those places, and put people all over the country, and really make that money. That
But
you know.
I would even plug in here just real estate by in my forte. I think that what the government should do is incentivize private land, like developers, by facilitating the process of the paperwork, which seems to be one of the most challenging aspect of it, because real estate in itself, when you build a community, you automatically get people who need to cut the lawns, run the electricity, people who want to do rehabs, people who want to do renovations. You get plumbers. It creates a whole economy. Just like tourism, real estate actually creates a big economy. And then a lot of these people who are in the US who are actually working, what you would say in the shadows, a lot of them work in the real estate industry. And it might be an opportunity where you could merge those types of industries where people can get the benefit of being a small businessman or electrician or plumber, cut lawn. Listen, when people, like, I could just speak about one guy in Belmopan. He cuts everybody's lawn, okay? He live better than me and you, all right? Because he have his schedule, your car cut into his schedule. He is in high demand because he does a good job and he's reliable. That's it. You just have to be reliable and your reputation. And I feel like in Belize you could potentially grow an industry where you might have a lot of people that do want to live, like you said. There's obviously a housing shortage. I think the ministry is infrastructure is prioritizing Belizeans, but I really think that it's something that they really should let the private sector also contribute in, because
Yes.
government can provide the lower income housing and then private sector can provide middle class type housing, and I think it would work in that industry. In tourism, again, even with real estate, it's a tied industry because you need hotels, you need Airbnbs, you need places for people go hang out, or you need places of entertainment. So there's obviously
And after all, Vivienne, correct me if I'm wrong, the Belizeans in the diaspora are one of the biggest part of the Belize tourism market, isn't that right?
That is correct.
Don't know how much they bring in every year in comparison to the American tourists and European, but they are part of that large amount of tourism dollars, right?
Yes. Yes, the remittances that we receive, the donations, it's a big part of the industry.
And also they are visiting the country, they spend a tremendous amount of money. Even if they're not living there, they visit and they come for vacation. They are a big part of the whole tourism industry. You're a tourist in your own country, so to speak. Right?
Yes. Yes.
Some people don't even know what PG they.
And they have the exponential effect where when they come back again, they bring their friends, they bring their family, they bring their kids. They're one of the return people that comes back and forth versus somebody who's like, oh, I've been to Belize, and then that's it. The Belizean diaspora have a tendency to basically one of the biggest contributors as being multiple visitors. Um, with this in place, with the what are some of the who are some of the ministries that you guys collaborate with? For example, with getting paperwork, what are some of the ministries that are involved? For example, with just so people are aware, what different ministries they might need to go to get their vital statistics, get their birth certificate. Like, what are some of the ministries that you collaborate with to get people their paperwork or assist them in knowing where to go?
Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We receive donations, so we would do Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education. We work along with a lot of the ministries,
Okay.
majority of them.
And for the paperwork, of course, immigration and
Yes.
vital statistics also. Um, Now, is there, or are you guys talking about what's evolving? Is that conversation taking place that we're having a immigration shift in the United States? And you will see, is that conversation happening within your area of the diaspora ministry with the evolving immigration issues here in the US at least?
They have, they are currently starting to talk about that within the ministry, within all the ministries, to see how it would affect each
Service.
ministry.
Okay. Bilal, you have any further questions?
I wanted to plug in the fires in California, in Los Angeles, it's county. And I was sort of prompting ARIA in terms of like, ARIA, man, like, Belizeans got burnt out. Like, what is it that the ministry? Because I look at the ambassador of the BBI program, and I've been looking at the notes and the information, but I don't see anything. I just see go to the Red Cross, go here, there. But there are Belizeans, and one that I have known that is crying out for some help in terms of assistance from his home country, Belize, in terms of being in the diaspora and how his home house was burnt down. Is there anything, Vivienne? I know that it's like a little outside of what we are talking about with the deportees and the retirement returnees, Belizeans coming back home. But how has the Ministry of Tourism and Diaspora Relations, I would say diaspora relations, responded to besides just directing people to the Red Cross and so forth here? Have they have anything in terms of reaching out and stretching out their hands in assistance to those Belizeans that may need their help as a country coming in and helping out their own?
The ministry works along, as you had mentioned, with Bill Belize Inc. They contact Bill Belize Inc. and Bill Belize Inc. also makes the diaspora known that we're here for them to see if they need assistance in anything and to see how we can assist them as best as we could.
Because, many of the times, that's the Ministry of Tourism and Diaspora, government itself, see the diaspora as a cash cow, right? Now, government want our money, but then we don't want to give away anything back in return, apart from when we're in a crisis. Oh, there is a natural disaster and emergency like this one. And that's how I was just looking at it, is that where is government where is my government when I need them most, because I have contributed significantly to my country.
Well, regarding your friend in the US, and I'm just being honest, we cannot realistically expect Belize government to take on a fire disaster.
I don't know. I'm saying that it's a reciprocity area. Here we are in the diaspora, and when the country needs the diaspora is there. And I'm just saying in the sense of reciprocity. When a Belizean, wherever that Belizean lives, if it's a student, does government come to the aid of the diaspora in that way? Maybe it's just a Belizean that is studying at the university that will come back home, but still living in the diaspora. I'm just saying that in the case of crisis, especially in this Trump administration, like let your government deal with it, or whatever the case may be. I just feel that reciprocity is a very important thing, in that we are not seeing that at all.
So just to add some color to it, I think they are assisting with paperwork, because I did see that people who lost their paperwork, that they can help expedite it. But if you have to ask, and I used to manage properties in California. You talk about properties are worth $500 to $1 million.
Not even property bill back. I'm just saying in the case of reaching out in some kind of gesture, of some kind of help in whatever way, rather than just say, go to the Red Cross, go here, but something tangible, something that Belizean could say, my government helped me.
Yeah, I mean,
it's necessarily building back. Belizean government can't build back a person's home. That's the responsibility of the state that they live in. But reaching out to I don't even think if we have collected a data bank of those Belizeans who have been affected out here in the Los Angeles County, and see in which way that the government of Belize can assist them. They might not can assist them with the big things, but maybe some small things, that's all I am saying, is that where is government when you need them the most?
But my question is, and I'm just saying this, it has to be two-way street, because America is dynamic. I think sometimes we don't appreciate the size of America because Belize is so small. But you talk about a country where we have 300 million people and Belizeans scattered between 300 million. There has to be something where that person has to reach out to and say, I'm looking for assistance. And then they have to say, these are the assistance that might be available. The only ones I've heard about is that the ones who need paperwork and they need guidance on, getting in contact with family members or stuff like that. That's what I'm thinking. Just being practical here about what Belize potentially can do. But financially, I don't even think Belize could imagine to build two houses and the budget.
But like I said, in the small things.
Yeah.
And the small things that makes a difference, Correct me if I'm wrong, Vivienne. Don't you think that it's the small things, right? That I think that there should be a more outreach from
I don't know why the put Vivienne on the spot.
No, but Vivienne is part of the discussion, man. Maybe we can, it's like I said, she will take that back to Mr. Mahler, and Mr. Mahler could say, that was some good points. This is what this show is about, the Everything Connection. Solving problems and coming up with solving problems, right? I don't think that anything is wrong with that. That the ambassador, Sunday Murphy, is hearing us, and she might say, well, yeah, Bilal is right, we need to do
Should
better.
invite her. We should invite her. She might have better answer
Right.
than Vivian.
Vivian, please, no, we're not putting you like that there. It's just you are doing your part as a liaison, but we are just maybe things that you can take back, right? Take
Yes,
back.
yes.
I have a question for Vivian though, and I know that for people who are non-Belizeans, there is also a QRP program, because there might be Belizeans who have friends who want to retire. You know, there's these people who want to retire together in these different communities. Do you know anything about the QRP, and could you just briefly tell us a little bit about it? These are for non-Belizeans.
The QRP are for non-Belizeans that would like to live in Belize. The person in charge of that program is Romy Haylock, who
Okay.
is at the Belize Tourism Board. They deal with that aspect when it comes to non-Belizeans.
And the QRP is, just to give a little headline about it, is also the ability to move to Belize, right? Where you get some incentives as long as you're depositing a certain amount of money from your retirement or wherever you are. It has to be at least 2,000 US a month, if I'm not mistaken. And then they get certain incentives to move to Belize, and they basically get their residency fast tracked by applying through this QRP program. And I believe now the government has changed, and this is just me reading it. I believe now the government has changed it where before you could not open businesses, but now there's an ability to go to Belize, and if you deposit, or it's like $1 million, I think, you can basically come into Belize and open businesses also. Mike, you did say that under DRIP there are incentives for businesses. Is there incentives for Belizeans who do have businesses that might want to benefit from maybe some similar programs that they're offering in QRP?
Through our DRIP program, under the application, there is a question that asks if you have tools of trade. Take for example, a welder, maybe a printing company, they are allowed to bring in their equipment as long as they provide proof, or a certificate, a license for their tool of trade that they will be bringing home with them and opening their own, continuing that.
That is an interesting point there, Vivian. I want to add though, if you're coming in as a Belizean returning home and you have a business, it's already may have been established. And I was in that position one time. Want a concession, you want a tax break. Foreign American investors get all of that, right? A Belizean returning home and he's setting up or she's setting up her own business. Will that Belizean be entitled to concessions and tax breaks, as well as the American investor who comes in and do that, or the expatriate American or European who comes in and live in Belize that are offered all these things? Because I remember the difficulty I went through in terms of coming in with a business and trying to get a concession. You know, it was a problem. They gave me a more harder time than they gave the American investor expatriate. And these are kind of things that barriers that we need to break down. And I asked the question because is there an incentive for those returnees, those Belizeans who are retiring in Belize, who are business people, who are opening up or may have had a business already established? Maybe they need a concession, they need some tax, and they're entitled to that because then they're a Belizean citizen, right?
Yes. It's similar to bringing in your household and personal items. They don't get charged duty except for the environmental tax. And once they have provided the license from from the US or wherever they are that they have their living and coming back home from, and they have their business license, they provide that, and then they also start their process of getting their business license here in Belize.
So
Because those
because
Belizean,
That
those
tools of
Belizeans
trade,
further will be creating jobs,
Yes.
paying taxes, right?
that,
So
that
it's a very, very important thing to give them the incentives, concessions, tax breaks, so that they can operate freely and keep employing their staff and pay their taxes, which is going back into the economy. I remember, I don't remember if there is solid programs like is offered to American investors, European investors coming into Belize. I guess it's based on the scale of that investment. Those people may be coming with millions of dollars investment, so they are offered. I don't know what's the criteria for that. No?
But I think what you mentioned about the tools of trade, I do want to go back to that. Is there a limit on the tools that you could bring in, or once you have your license, these are the tools that make up your business. You're allowed to bring in all those tools, right? Based on that environmental tax.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's important because that's an important aspect, especially people like you said that are welders, people who might be cabinet makers, or people who fall within certain industries that use heavy tools, even builders. They have contractors, and these contractors might have heavy machinery to help them with their pouring of cement. Does it extend to, for example, if you have vehicles, is vehicles considered tools of trade? If it's something like a contractor might have, like different types
Dump
of
truck, a dump truck,
tractors and stuff
yeah,
to
truck.
help them with their business, is that all included?
Yes, the tractors is allowed
Okay.
along with their personal vehicle.
Along with cement makers and stuff like that. I'm just asking, okay.
Dump
Yeah.
trucks too.
Big
If
deal.
that person is a contractor, they may want to bring in 2 dump trucks. That will also be covered under the
Yes,
vehicle.
so once it's a registered company.
Yeah. And I would assume that
Very
they,
important, yes,
I,
because I was told
that,
to move
that,
from if I wanted a concession and to get the tax holiday, I would have to move my business from a proprietorship to a company, and I did that. And indeed, I was able to access those incentives. So that
now
is
I have a question,
it.
just going back to that. Does the vehicles and stuff, it has to be registered in the business, right? It has to be business related versus you can't just bring in anything on your personal name. It has to be registered to your business. I just
Ye-
want to make it clear that when people are doing these types of application, that they are aware that if they're affiliating it with their business, it should be in their business name.
Yes.
Okay.
We
And
recommend
go ahead, Yvonne. Yeah.
we recommend that when they're listing their items that they're bringing in, that they do their personal and household items in a separate, whether it's Word they're using or Excel, and then also their tools of trade separately as well. Don't combine the items together.
Okay, good point. And again, on your tools of trade, I guess it would fall similarly if it's not on your list and you show up with it at the border
You
or
will be charged
shipping
for
it, you'll
duty.
be charged for what's not on the list.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Well, I really think that this is a great program, and I think more people should learn about it to see what their options are. I think anybody who is retiring in the next 5 years should start looking into some of these programs. Um, I would encourage people to ask the government how they can help some more. For example, Bilal just raised the issue where if somebody is in trouble, who do I reach out to, and what services can be provided, or how does the government go around reaching out to these Belizeans? One of the things I will say is that in Florida, they do ask Belizeans to register with the consulates, and I think that is a good way to stay within their purview, because they won't know you're a Belizean just because you suffered an event. You have to identify yourself as a Belizean because a lot of people really are Belizean Americans. So it's not obvious on the surface that these people are Belizeans and that they're suffering unless there's a way to exchange that information back and forth, you know. And I'm just thinking about Belize capacity. We're still a small country, and according to the U.S. Census, there's about 100,000+ Belizeans in the U.S. But we know that number triples when you consider children and grandchildren. So it's significant. And what happens if one get slammed? I'm not putting it on you because it sounds like you are responsible, but tomorrow you might end up to get slammed with a lot of applications. And I think that's something you need to think about, that what happens if you get slammed and then 90 people that are on the deportation list that the minister spoke about, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, that are potentially 97 people that might be reaching out to you to see how they could potentially get their household items, or maybe it's something that's presented to them when they come in. And this is just my recommendation. If they're coming in as deportees, and they're not criminal deportees, if they're coming in as, okay, I was living under the shadows of the US, maybe it's a package that can be handed to them as a reentry program. Like, how do we, what are we doing? And I did want to talk to the PM about this. What are the plans as a reentry, or maybe even the Minister of Foreign Affairs, since he mentioned it? What are the plans for a reentry program? Because Bilal is right. 97 people show up. Now you have to think about people who are not earning an income immediately. How do you get in contact with their families? Is there some step-down program to reintroduce them into? Because Belize is beautiful, but Belize is still not the United States when it comes to certain conveniences. And I think that's some of the realities that always have to be reminded, that you are living in Belize. You can contribute. There might be ways to show them how they can contribute. But I think it's something we have to think about so that our crime rate doesn't spiral because you have a lot of people who are not working, right?
Yeah, most of those people will be coming in, maybe not entrepreneurs, but they will be coming in just as people who will be, well, I have to make a living and seek employment. How do we, and I think that's an excellent idea to have an orientation program, as ARIA is saying, something that can sort of facilitate the entrance into the program. I mean, but it happens so, this happens so suddenly, and we can't really put it on the ministry to really come up with these things so quickly. But it is something that has to be done in the case of, to make sure that it does not spill off into anything. But we should have the necessary mechanisms in place administratively to make sure that we facilitate these deportees, whoever and how much they're going to be, no?
100 people is a lot in a, and I would hope that it's people who, because right now I know that there are shortages in construction in Belize, and there are shortages in certain industries, in the healthcare field, I understand.
And in the agricultural field.
Yeah. So my question is, they probably need to do an
Taken over by
analysis.
the Central American refugees. We we are a people who are afraid of farming. We don't want to go cut bananas and with that flow of people. I mean, after you got used to being in the United States, you know, a lot of people are not used to that kind of hard work. We are the Central American refugees. They come from that, and they are able to be there in those industries and earn a living. But what do we have for these people who are deportees that
I
will be
think we
coming?
need to look out for, because I did see this interview last year on, I think it was NBC, where the person was being deported, but they were Salvadorian. And the person in the interview said they lived in Belize before they moved to the US, and they're asking to be deported to Belize. So I'm thinking that that's another aspect we haven't thought about, that a lot of these deportees that might be coming back in other countries actually lived in Belize for a while, and their interest might be to come back to Belize because they might have built a farm or they might have family here, and instead of living in Salvador or Guatemala, they might decide to come live in Belize. And so um, I feel like we should prepare for the worst, hope for the best, but I feel like we're going to get an influx just because there are going to be some people who, even the ones who are legal, that just doesn't want to be in the immigration fight where, you know, they feel like they're being discriminated against in somewhere. And I really appreciate your time because I really think that the purity of Belize always is, regardless of how much we quarrel and fight, Belizean people are a very giving people. They always are willing to help. Last week, or the week before, I said, if you lived at Belize, your family now might be quarrel with you, but you're not on the starve. Belize don't allow you for starve. You will not, if you're a capable person, you know how to live on the streets. Like we'll see in America, where you have capable, sane, non-drug free persons still living on the street because they can't access housing. Belizean people want to make you sleep on the floor. They want to do something, but that is society.
But of course, you're gonna definitely have, Aria, you're gonna have that spill off into homelessness because we see homelessness in Belize already. And a lot of those people who I see in Belize who are homeless are people who came who end up back there.
But
Um,
it's, homelessness is mental illness and drugs.
yeah, but I'm also displacement too, financial displacement. Some
So we
people
do
got
have
financial
homelessness now with people who are capable but just not financially.
right. You have that right that can't really support themselves, end up on the homeless line, sleeping on the bliss. You know what I mean? Yeah, deportees that I see had gone through that. You see a
Okay.
lot of when people come home and nobody is there for them anymore.
I don't remember
They
who is
died out, everybody left. So what do we do? Do we have programs to facilitate those people as a where they can go and have a night's sleep or where they gonna stay again? You know, they're coming home. Yeah, where they gonna live?
Yeah, and I
Uh,
think that's why we definitely need like information with what their skill levels are, because some might come back with a high level of skill sets that can benefit businesses. Some might be artists, you never know. Some might be builders that, you know, some businesses might benefit from. But I think the most concerning thing is, and I think that happened to us before, we don't want a high level of criminality that Belize cannot handle. I think that's a scary part of it all. Um, because, you know,
and if these things are not provided, food, shelter, and
yeah,
employment, you're gonna have that problem.
yeah,
Food, shelter, and employment. If that is not, if the government of Belize does not prepare itself in those very three things, where they gonna house them, how they gonna feed them. I mean, you just can't say, well, we leave them there at the at the mercy of nature, because then we will have crime problems. You know,
maybe a halfway
we have
house.
to have the basic necessities, food, shelter, and some kind of employment in terms of making sure that these people are 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 facilitated properly into the fabric of the Belizean society again. You know,
It would be great if the Catholics in Belize, because they're doing it in the US, would probably help provide some step, you know, like, you know, they have the halfway houses, you're going to do them. If you don't have family, you stay there for 3 months at a time, and then they reintegrate you into Belize society. It might have to be done. You are right. They might have to identify a space and
country
place.
that has so much land area. Come on,
Belize have a lot of land. We have the space.
with all that land. Yes, man. But Vivienne, we are boring you, girl. I could see that yeah, we are like running off and
know.
we run off and run off and run off and run.
It's
I'm
very
trying to go on and
interesting
we go on
information.
and go on.
Vivian, I really want to thank you though because you came here. Bilal put questions where he's really not supposed to ask you. You handled it like a pro. It was very
My
informative.
bad, Vivienne, girl. My bad.
No problem.
Handle it like a pro. I think it was very informative. Could you tell us again the websites, the phone numbers, if people are interested, and then we'll just share the link afterwards in the group in the chat. But could you just like tell us again how do we reach out? What are the website and what is the phone numbers for people to get access to the application form?
Okay. The application forms can be a form can be found on www.tourism.gov.bz and also www.belizediaspora.bz.
.bc, right?
Yes, BZ. The front of the application form has our contact information, such as our telephone number, which is 227-9581. We also have a WhatsApp number where they can call us or send us a message on, which would be 666-9581.
I do have one question that was in the chat that says, is this only for retired people? And the answer is no, right? It's for anybody who have lived in the US 10 years plus that are looking to return home.
Yes, and moving permanently and not planning to just stay here for a while and go back. The
Like
program,
5 years.
Like Bilal.
that's why Bilal doesn't get another
That's what I call
application.
Yes,
All
I like
right,
how you made that, you emphasize that very clearly. The mash McCon is like, but that's very important to know. Very important. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's very important to know.
yeah. So thank you for joining us tonight. Our guest tonight was Vivienne Acosta from the Ministry of Tourism and Diaspora Affairs. She's a liaison officer within the Diaspora Returnee Incentive Program, which is a program that helps Belizeans from abroad who want to move back to Belize. They offer tax incentive, they offer opportunities to take advantage, bring your business, bring your household goods, bring your vehicle, practically tax-free, that allows you to now come back to Belize and move permanently. And I know this will be some people's reality. You should start researching it if it's something you're thinking about. If you're looking to retire soon and want to move back, if you want to move your business, or if you are in peril of being deported, you really should start looking into these programs. It is the government of Belize opportunity to assist Belizeans abroad to re-enter the country, and it's a good time to view this. Belize has changed a lot for people who have not been here. In Belize, I'm not here, but I'm always there. Belize have changed a lot. It has changed a lot economically, the demographics, where people live. Man, it's exploding. Some areas, I don't think Belizeans appreciate how beautiful places are opening up, like places you couldn't reach before are now opened up, and it's just amazing to
I think
see.
Vivienne was trying to add something. You're trying to say something that's not right, Vivienne, or you?
Oh no, I'm listening.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And with that said, we're closing off. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Harlan, who is our engineer in the back, XTV, and our producer, Noor Mohammed, for allowing the diaspora space on this show so that we know how to connect bridges. With that being said, I'll let Bilal have the final words.
And yeah, I won't keep it too long, Vivienne. Acosta, thank you. Appreciate you for taking the invite and coming in and giving us information, because it was very, very vital. A lot of Belizeans are spoken about retiring back in Belize, but they don't have this information that you were able to disseminate today. We want to thank you, and again, we want to say this is Naval String Connections. Man in the control, Harlan, we want to thank you, my brother. This is a Creme Television production, not a Creme Television, but an XTV production. And we want to thank you, the listening and the viewers across the Belizean diaspora and in Belize, where you are watching this live on XTV. We want to say thank you for watching, and good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Your bande, your bande.